Left of the box. So Nex was attacked in the bathroom at his high school by a group of girls, and he hit his head and was taken to the hospital. And the next day, he was found dead. Now, the first assumption was that he had a head injury, a concussion or something that led to the death. And the police were very quick to brush it off and saying that the attack had nothing to do with his death. And a lot of people were very skeptical of that. So a federal investigation was launched and more information has come out, and now evidence is pointing towards a suicide. And a lot of the people on the right are using this as a moment to be like, nah, we told you, which is gross. But also, it doesn't let those girls who attacked him off the hook. It doesn't let libs of TikTok off the hook that he didn't die in that specific attack. Because it's the environment and everything that led up to this that led him to feel like there's no other way out. They might not have been the ones to have ended his life directly, but they definitely had something to do with it. We can get a little bit more into the details. So this is from Advocate. Nex Benedict died by suicide, says Oklahoma medical examiner. The Office of the Chief Medical Examiner in Oklahoma has concluded that Nex Benedict, a 16-year-old trans, non-binary student of Indigenous heritage from Owasso High School, whose death has been sparked widespread concern and debate, died by suicide. The medical examiner's one-page summary report identifies the cause of death as combined toxicity from diphenhydramine and fluoxetine. A full report will be released on March 27th, according to the department. So this medication is commonly known as Benadryl, and the other one is recognized as Prozac. So basically, Benadryl and Prozac combined is apparently something that people who attempt to take their life tend to use quite frequently. On February 7th, Benedict, who used he/they pronouns, was assaulted in a school bathroom. Later, Benedict's grandmother took him to hospital, where body-worn video from Owasso police officer revealed that the teenager had been bullied relentlessly for their gender expression before the assault. The following day, Benedict was in distress at home and taken to the hospital, where they were later pronounced dead. Benedict's death has highlighted the critical need for increased awareness and resources dedicated to mental health and well-being of LGBTQ+ youth. Sarah K. Ellis, the president and CEO of GLAAD, issued a statement to the Advocate challenging the adequacy of the investigation and calling for greater accountability. Ellis highlighted the critical need for persistent inquiry and transparency from Oklahoma's law enforcement and government entities, particularly in case involving the safety and well-being of vulnerable students like Benedict. Ellis expressed skepticism regarding the sparse details provided by the medical examiner's report on Benedict's death. There is nothing in this one-page document to explain why the medical examiner checked a box. Ellis noticed, media must have learned by now that they need to continue to question what they get from law enforcement. The government entities in Oklahoma have so far failed to protect vulnerable students and responsibly provide any information that is critical for student safety. She further emphasized the broader implications of Benedict's case, emphasizing the dire need for a societal shift towards protection and acceptance of LGBTQ+ youth. Nex Benedict and all LGBTQ and two-spirit, transgender, and gender nonconforming youth deserve a world that fights for them to be themselves, to be free from state-sponsored bullying and discrimination, Ellis remarked. She also called on the media and public officials to remain vigilant in holding state leaders accountable for safeguarding all youth from harm and ceasing harmful policies. So it goes on to talk about the whole situation. So the full thing will be coming out in about a week, March 27th. A full report will be released on March 27th, where we will then be getting more details. I'm not entirely sure, even with this evidence, that you could rule it as a suicide. Unless there's a note or a statement of some sort. It could just be an overdose. And a lot of suicides, the way that they get reported, There's a good chance he didn't want to die, but maybe was just in a very low spot and wanted the pain to end. Because a lot of people go through the motions of taking too much medication and stuff, not because they want their life to end, but because they want the situation they're in is unbearable. And Nex had to face this bullying, not only at school, but on social media from very powerful, influential social media accounts like Lips of TikTok, who had previously targeted one of his teachers, a teacher who was very supportive of him and people like him. And when it comes to things like this, there's a lot of gray area as to who is at fault. And there's one kind of analogy I can think of in my head when it comes to tragic stories like this. And as somebody who has dealt with suicidal ideation quite regularly, it's almost like if somebody were to spike a diabetic's food with sugar every now and then because they thought it was funny how that person would then act once they got that spike of sugar. But no real harm was done. They just did this from time to time and could laugh at it. But then one day they do this because, again, they just want that laugh. But that person then dies that day because what that person who spiked the food with sugar didn't know was a few other people had also done it that day. And that the person was under medical stress for other reasons. And there were other underlying conditions that all accumulated into this one point that this day was just one too many. Had those girls not attacked Nex in the bathroom and sent him to hospital, had the school not then suspended him and blamed him for it, there's a strong possibility he would still be here. When you get bullied like that, it accumulates. It's one day can be worse than others, but if it hadn't happened that day, then there's a good chance that he wouldn't have felt so cornered, that he could have made it till the next day. And maybe the next day, something would have happened to lift him up, to make him feel better. It sounds like he was in a very supportive household, that he just needed a little bit more time to process what had happened. But because of the stress and everything that happened to him, it was taken away. And those girls who attacked him now won't be held accountable at all because, oh, well, he did it to himself. When those girls also need help because they attacked him for him just living his life. So they've been filled with hatred from their parents, from their culture, and they're going to grow up and potentially do this type of behavior again to somebody else because they got away with it. Like there's so much here, and I'm trying to think of the best ways to say it, to express it. Like accounts like Libs of TikTok has absolutely led to the deaths of young people, of queer people, who could no longer handle the strain, who had nowhere else to escape, and then suddenly being blasted on their platform, making them a target, making them feel exposed to the world, was a bit too much. Because when you have nowhere to escape, or if everywhere you look, all you see is hatred being thrown at you, what options do you have left? And this is where I was talking about, when schools become hostile environments for people who are queer, if they don't have a safe place at home, and they don't have a safe place on social media because of accounts like Lives of TikTok, and the only safe place they had was their school, but then the teachers who were supportive get fired or they're forced to quit and the students start attacking them there, where else do they go? It really is such a sad, sad story. And the right is just starting to treat this like See, it wasn't our fault. They were just mentally ill. And they don't want to take any accountability for the fact that their actions absolutely led to Nex's death. Had it been those girls who attacked him in the bathroom, or had it been a suicide? So Ari Drennan says every trans suicide is a murder. Remember Nex Benedict. I want to be crystal clear here. A trans kid was jumped in a school bathroom and beaten unconscious, and the school responded by suspending him and sending him home. Deaths of despair are not blameless. Our children deserve to believe in a future. Owasso Public School and Owasso Police Department have done everything possible to divert attention from this story, and we should take this report with a grain of salt. Nex deserved an independent medical investigation. And the surf's just saying only the sickest minds would try to use a teenager's suicide to defend herself as if somehow better than dying from physical bullying, especially when Libs of TikTok falsely accused a teacher who was supportive of LGBTQ plus students at the school of being a groomer. And so Libs of TikTok seems very happy with this news, just saying, breaking, the medical examiner just released Nex's cause of death. He tragically died from an overdose. The left used this tragedy to attack Libs of TikTok, and media lied about stories for weeks, insisting that I was somehow responsible for Nex's death. You were. Libs of TikTok, Chaya, Haya, whatever, Rycheck. You were. You have some guilt in this. This one is just talking about the walkout. Owasso High School students organized a walkout on February 26th to protest what they described as pervasive culture of bullying that often goes unpunished. Kane, one of the organizers of the walkout, who asked to go by first name only to protect his privacy, said at the time that students had speculated that Nex may have died by suicide. But to Kane, who is non-binary, the key contributing factor to Nex's death was bullying. There's been bullying issues. This time the bullying has gone so far that the student has passed, Kane said ahead of last month's walkout. To me, it doesn't matter if Nex passed from a brain injury or if they passed from suicide. What matters is the fact that they died after getting bullied, and that is the story for so many other students. I've been close to ending it myself because of bullying. It's not new for so many students. And this was the tweet that the Libs of TikToks had sent out attacking the teacher and making it so that he had to step down. This actually got a lot of attention. President Joe Biden actually put out a statement, which, you know, I wish it didn't take a story as tragic as this one to do it, but I'm glad he did. It's something I've been asking for quite some time, is for the Democrats to actually speak out against this. For as many faults as Justin Trudeau has when it comes to queer issues, he speaks out. He's quite vocal. He'll push back against the conservatives and name them. But so much in the States, I see Democrats not saying anything. So to have this statement come out, I really appreciate it. So, statement from President Joe Biden on Nex Benedict. Jill and I are heartbroken by the recent loss of Nex Benedict. Every young person deserves to have the fundamental right and freedom to be who they are and feel safe and supported at school and in their communities. Nex Benedict, a kid who just wanted to be accepted, should still be here with us today. Non-binary and transgender people are some of the bravest Americans I know, but nobody should have to be brave just to be themselves. In memory of Nex, we must all recommit to our work to end discrimination and address the suicide crisis impacting too many non-binary and transgender children. Bullying is hurtful and cruel, and no one should face the bullying that Nex did. Parents and schools must take reports of bullying seriously. My prayers are with Nex's family, friends, and all who love them, and to all LGBTQI+ Americans for whom this tragedy feels so personal, know this: I will always have your back. To LGBTQI+ youth, young people across the country, you are loved exactly as you are. If you're feeling overwhelmed or alone, you can call or text the National Crisis Hotline and dial the number 3 to talk to a counselor who has been specifically trained to support LGBTQI plus youth. It's a good statement. I just wish it didn't take this tragedy for him to speak out on it. And this one was just tweeted out. It's a meme from Adam. May you never know the fear of having your human rights challenged every time there is an election. And may you never know the pain of watching loved ones vote against your right to exist fully, equally, and authentically. And here is somebody who is speaking at the school board on behalf of Nex, addressing it.
A more, woke school board would see the death of a child and work to make sure it never happens again. Not this board. This board sees a dead kid and says, that's a good start, because this school board signed up to protect all children. And by all children, they mean these children, not so much these children. Hate us if you want, but, we're the good guys. We want to let kids be kids, and there's nothing more unnatural than a teenager experimenting with their identity. It has never happened before and should be punished. We're the good guys. We'll spit on a kid's grave, blame the parents, and tell our teenagers to hit them harder. We're the good guys. When we heard that a trans child had been beaten to death, our state senator, Tom Woods, immediately released a statement. We don't want that filth in Oklahoma. We can call children filth, even the dead ones, because, we're the good guys, right? And if we're wrong, if God doesn't want us driving off the lepers and deviants and worshiping the bankers, if our God doesn't want us casting the first stone, if our God doesn't want us loving people despite their differences, well, if we're wrong, then I guess I'll see you all in hell. Thank you.
The Republicans, conservative right-wingers, constantly trying to say that they're the good ones, when it's their actions that are leading to so much harm, so much hurt, so much death. But they'll constantly say we're the good ones. We're just looking out for children. So long as they do exactly what we want, how we want, be exactly what we think they should be. If they stray anything from what we think our God deems them they should be, then, well, in that case, then we don't look out for them. In that case, it's better for everyone if they just go away.